Hi, how you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Today we're going to be talking about what makes you a failure. Don't worry, it's not as bad as you think it's going to be. Now, before we begin, we must define what a failure is. And we're going to say a failure is an absolute term that is determined from the result of an undertaking. Now, what does that mean in broader terms? It means that a failure can only be determined at the end of the undertaking, not during. This will be our premise for the video. So let's test this definition to see if it looks good. So say you failed a test. We all have. The failure is provided at the end of the test, not during. The instructor doesn't interrupt you mid-test to say you failed it. How could he know? He can only know at the end of the test when everything's been taken into account. Okay, so let's build on this idea that if you're still doing something, you can't fail at it. As this holds true to many aspects of life, as we'll see. Let's imagine you're trying to learn a new skill. Say you're trying to learn how to ski. You're probably falling many times, and quite frankly, you suck at it. But you keep getting up, and that's what keeps you from being a failure at it. By the simple act of not giving up, it prevents you from being labeled a failure, as it prolongs the conclusion of that undertaking. And since we know that you can't be labeled a failure during the undertaking, by prolonging the conclusion, you prevent being labeled a failure. But unfortunately, that logic can be used in another case. If you give up, you conclude that undertaking, and that allows you to be labeled as a failure. So, let's take the broadest example and apply what we've discussed so far. What makes your life a failure? The answer is simple. Only you can make your life a failure. And how do you do this? By giving up on it and not living. So live.